All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our live webinar. We appreciate your time. We know that you just got out of an IRS training session, so we appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you on a topic that has been top of mind for the past several months, and that is, of course, navigating through the new normal and moving your tax business to the cloud. Now, joining us today for our live webinar are Shannon Bond, our Vice President and Segment Leader for Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting, John Evanoff, our TaxWise Application Engineer, and Jasmine Dabbs, our CEO and owner for Wizard Tax Software and TaxWise customer for the past 3 years. We have a content-packed session for you guys today. So for the next 45 to 60 minutes, we're going to talk about several things. We'll talk about lessons learned from running a tax business with social distancing guidelines and everything that's going on in the past couple of months. I'm sure you're familiar and you've had your share of experiences that you could also share with everybody. But we have Jasmine here today. She's going to talk to us about some of the things that she put in place and some of the best practices that she learned in the process. Then we'll move on to talking about what is the cloud and what are the benefits of running your business from the cloud. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have 3 ways to grow your tax business and increase your profits in 2021. Now, we want to make this interactive, so we're going to launch a polling question, first of all, to see what kind of audience we have. And the question we want to put out there is, how did the filing deadline extension to July 15th affect your tax business? And the answers are, I was able to prepare more tax returns, no increase or decrease in tax return volume, and decrease in tax return count. So let me go ahead and launch that survey question now. So far, 40% of you guys have seen no increase or decrease in tax return volume. 37% was able to prepare more tax returns as a result of the July 15th extension of the deadline. And then 25% as of right now, so a decrease in tax return count. So I'll share some insights that we had from a different webinar that we hosted. The mix was actually 50% in growth. So they were able to prepare more tax returns as a result. I think the other split was about 30% in no increase or decrease, and 20% a decrease in tax return count. So when we look at these totals, and I'm going to go ahead and send them to the audience so that everybody can see, you can see how your business compares, versus what everybody's seeing out there. So it's always interesting to hear from you, and we promise that we have content here today that will help you manage your business, not only for the remainder of the year, but also in next tax season if we're still in the same situation. So let me get back to our presentation. Thank you everybody for participating. Let me end results here. I believe we should be back on track, and we'll go ahead and get started. Now, I'd like to introduce Jasmine Dabbs, and she is, as I mentioned, a TaxWise user in the Dallas area. And Jasmine, as I mentioned, you have been using TaxWise Online for the past 3 years, prepare a significant number of returns, and you do anything from tax preparation, bank products, loans, you do all kinds of things. And you have pretty much a year-round business that goes beyond tax season itself. Now, you had to go through a lot of changes this year because of COVID-19. You had to move your business operations to full-time work from home in March. You had to update your marketing strategy because you obviously could not see your tax clients in the office. So you had to update all of that marketing materials, how to communicate with you. You had to find a new way to receive new tax customers, and you utilize a referral program. You set up your staff remotely, and you kept your clients up to date through it all with anything that was affecting their tax return. So let's go ahead and switch to the next slide, because I want to get your feedback on setting up a remote office. So walk us through the steps of what it took. Was it easy? Was it hard? Here are some questions that we had talked about, you took into consideration, but just kind of walk us through the process, how you got there from your actual office into, actually working from home back in March.
I think the major thing is you have to understand there are different business foundations and structures, and in every business goal is to find a software that will promote great security, strategic processing, and aid in the developmental growth of the business. And we found that in using TaxWise Online, we are able to streamline. First, you have to start with a business structure, or let me say a remote business structure, because a lot of firms don't have that. It wasn't realistic enough until COVID-19 came about. And so in that, you have to be able to have that business strategy or that plan to take your business from coming into the office every single day to being able to have remote preparers or remote business working. And so the first thing is to purchase TaxWise Online. And after that is to train staff and make them accountable to being able to work in that type of environment, which means I have to train them to work remotely. I have to teach them what to do and what not to do, how to start, how to communicate with a client. And so the first thing is, after you set that business structure, after you train them, the next thing is to do is have the business solutions to always guide them in the right direction, whether it's starting with how do I contact the client, or how do I call tech support, or how do I contact a manager if I need something, which is having that remote capability with voice over IP telephones. It allows for call forwarding. It allows for a client to still be able to contact the preparer as if they were still in the office. It allows you to assist clients immediately with no delay, as if you were sitting in the office. And what we find with other softwares or desktop softwares is that you initially have to wait until you get back into the office to service that client. And that's not what you find here. It is no delay. It's immediate. All I have to do is have internet connection and log in, and I can answer any question. I can look up anything that I need. The system allows for complete tax returns and automations from wherever you are. And it also allows that being remote, you have to have communication. One important thing, because you're not physically around people every day. And so that initiative that you would get to work, that you would get to contact a client, or that you would even get to communicate with clients on a daily basis, that is kind of taken away from you. So you have to find different aspects that are not traditional, which may be incorporating cloud meetings like Zoom or GoToWebinars. That way, if a client is not comfortable with just talking to you over the phone, they can visibly see you, as well as keeping office structure in place. You can enhance that by having team meetings at the end of the day through Zoom. Yes, we're not able to physically connect with each other in person, but we can still connect and meet whatever quota we have, get whatever goals that we have assigned, still completed in a timely fashion, still in an organized way that doesn't compromise the business as a whole, the clients, and it still keeps us in line with the IRS tax laws, the federal laws, and the state laws. And so we don't jeopardize the business and we don't jeopardize clients' information. The next thing is about sharing files. We all know that in tax season, the important thing is keeping files in order, documentation secure, keeping it on lock and key, that if something was to ever happen, we don't put our clients in jeopardy. They entrust us with their information. It is one of the most intimate things you can do with a client, is go over their financials with them. And so they entrust us with it. And so we have to make sure, as business owners, EROs, that as tax preparers, that we do everything in our power to keep that trust at 100%. And so having the access and the use of TaxWise Online does that when it comes to client sharing. We are able to use what we call Vault, which is cloud storage, which is securely sound for sharing documents. We also use what we call Client Portal, which is another piece of Wolters Kluwer's client communication tool that we actually use. It allows for them to have a username and login to access paperwork, to access all documentation they have sent over to us, whether it be in person, through the cloud, or through the mobile app. I believe that it also gets rid of unwanted storage that we don't like to see in our everyday businesses. We don't like the clutter, or let me say me, I don't like the clutter. So having the option to have cloud storage takes away me having to buy file cabinets or keeping tons of paper for years that after about 5 or 6 or 7 years, I'm going to have to shred, which happened to us before. And we spent a week shredding papers like for 8 hours a day. And so this takes away having that extra paper that you may lose or get lost, because nothing ever leaves the cloud, and it's secure. And so the final thing I think is being able to still get the documentation in order with signatures, with paperwork lined up. And so with e-signature, it allows the client to be able to sign from wherever they are. It doesn't matter if it's an iPad, it doesn't matter if it's a computer, mobile phone, tablet. You can still get the signed documentation as by federal law through the IRS. And it is actually their signature that they are providing to you. And so you're still in compliance, and compliance is a tremendous issue in the tax industry. And so we want to make sure that you are still being compliant. And I believe that as a whole, this system itself, it gives you the ability to grow and the ability to stay in compliance without even ever being in an office space. And so if from a personal perspective, I would have to say that we would have been in a total different pandemic outside of COVID-19 had we not had TaxWise Online. It would have caused some problems. And so having that helped us streamline. And so it wasn't as hard for us. It was taking those same measurements I just gave you before with the business structure and strategy and just making sure we put them in place. And as managers, as owners, as partners, making sure that everything is always lined up, and we're doing our best to still communicate with those people that we employ or that trust us. And I think out of everything, that's the main thing about being remote.
And I love, Jasmine, how passionate you are about our solutions. And it sounds like your transition from your actual office into a remote office, it was really a plug out and plug in. You log out of the office and then log back in when you're actually at home. So let me go ahead and put you on the spot. And I know we've talked about this before. You still had customers that wanted to come see you face to face, even though you had said, I'm working remotely, I'm handling my business operations from home. How did you handle that?
I did meet a lot of clients in person. I introduced them into the TaxWise mobile link, which helped out a lot. And sent them the link and kind of walked them through it. I wanted them to be, okay, be okay with using the system, because a lot of people are scared of taxes. They don't like to prepare them themselves. And so introducing that product, I think, opened the door for another set of clientele that we weren't ready for, because then a lot of people start asking, well, since you don't want to meet us now, is there another way we can get this to you without, compromise, trying to send everything through email, which I do not suggest. TaxWise, the mobile link, was it helped out a lot, especially with them being able to upload documentation, driving license, W-2s, 1099s, anything tax related that you as a tax preparer owner needed to complete their tax return. They were able to upload it through there. It came over to the software, and in the click of a button, everything that they sent or put in automatically was already put in the software.
Yeah, no, it sounds like the challenge or the need for them to want to meet with you was that document sharing. And once you offer a solution, an alternative, then they say, okay, maybe we don't need to meet and share some germs, I suppose. So,
absolutely.
Shannon, let me bring you in from a corporate perspective. And of course, Jasmine, as a small business owner, she had her way to manage a situation. From a corporate perspective, we had to move hundreds of employees from the office to remote. And, while not all the best practices that we put in place and all the guidelines that we follow, are applicable to a small business. Can you share some of the lessons that we learned in the process from moving business operations from the office, to remote locations that, perhaps would be applicable to some tax professionals out there?
Yeah, I think, clearly for all of us, the well-being and the safe welfare of our employees was first and foremost, and ensuring that our customers received the same levels of support, that they continued to have access to products that were going to allow them to continue to move their businesses forward. We stayed 100% focused on ensuring the productivity was there so that our customers could be served. And, taking in the middle of tax season, pulling an entire service excellence group off of the floor in Kennesaw, Georgia, to all work remotely. I could tell you very proud moments for me as a manager to know that everyone stayed engaged. We didn't skip a beat. Phones kept ringing. People kept answering. We were fortunate enough to, as a corporation, to have tested. So I guess my one big lesson learned when I think about it, having owned and run a small business, you have to be prepared. You have to set aside the time to think about the readiness. I mean, we've all learned a lot about being ready in a whole different way today in this COVID environment, but having the dry runs to make sure when you have to flip that switch, it's going to work. This certainly puts you in a much more comfortable zone and the ability to continue to serve your clients. Then you're calmer, they're calmer, your employees are calmer, and you're able to move forward and think clearly. And hopefully the products that we put in play for Jasmine and others helped to make that transition a bit smoother and an awkward moment, not quite so awkward for you and for your employees and your clients.
That's right. So now that we are past, the COVID-19 and setting up a remote office and everything that had to take place for us to be able to operate, let's talk about the future. And the future has a lot to do with the cloud. So let's talk about the benefits. And the benefits go really beyond, the usual accessibility anytime, anywhere. And we'll talk about that. But even before we get there, before we talk about social distancing and setting up your remote office outside of your physical location, there are benefits to working remotely, such as, if your client wants to meet with you outside of the office, if you cannot make it to the office because of weather-related problems, there's a big storm or a hurricane, you just want to be able to do work, you just cannot make it to your physical location. One that I really appreciate, and I've talked to many tax professionals in the past, is long hours during tax season. And a lot of you guys are staying through midnight, getting those tax returns prepared for the next day to be a great day. You don't have to do that in the office anymore if you have a remote option. You can log off at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. from the office, go home, have dinner, enjoy time with your family, and then perhaps log back into the system from home just by opening a web browser and continue your tax work if you feel like you need to do it. If you go on vacation, you take your tax office with you. And if your competitor doesn't have the ability to accomplish any of those things, then in that case, you have a competitive edge over somebody who's not able to be as flexible as you are. So even before social distancing, even before accessibility anytime, anywhere, there are definitely a lot of reasons to consider moving your tax business to the cloud. Now, let's talk about some of those. Accessibility anytime, anywhere, Dawn. We cannot speak enough about the benefits of doing that.
Absolutely, Luis. And one of the things with being in a cloud product or on the cloud is you have 24/7 access to all of your data. As Jasmine said earlier, with Vault in TaxWise Online, she had all the source documents. So I have the source documents, I can complete the return, I can get the electronic signature or send it out to them at any, whenever I have time. And again, we're talking about COVID and what's going on, and some people have to homeschool their kids, so their hours are going to shift if they have to during tax season next year. So they may have to work at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night and do things and send things out because they've got to deal with children all day long with school. The other thing that's important too is it's any device. And in today's world, we're all pretty connected, whether it's through our cell phones or our tablets or our computers. And so any device, as long as you can get to the internet, whether you're using cellular data or whether you're using your internet at the home or at a hotel or, at a relative's house. So having that access 24/7 and on any type of device and having all the data available there is huge.
Absolutely. And Jasmine, the next 3 bullet points, they really fall in line with everything that you shared earlier.
Yes, absolutely does. Immediate availability, I think, for me is the first thing out of everything because you get so many calls. Like you said before, It's long hours. You never know who's going to call in. So with that, it's like, okay, I don't have to wait, drive 20 minutes to the office. I can do it right now. I don't have to schedule an appointment and say, I'll call you back. Give me 2 seconds. Let me get in there and figure it out. And we can get this ball rolling and complete it. So remote tax preparation has its benefits as well. For me, it has I don't have to go anywhere. I can do whatever I need from here. And so with that 30-minute drive that I would make there and 30 minutes back, what do I do with the extra time? And so you find other things or other, stuff that you would put to the side during tax season, and you're able to already get that done. So being remote has its great aspects as well.
That's right. And Shannon, one of the main benefits, of course, of moving your tax business to the cloud is some of the security aspects of it all. And that's why, we see, as I mentioned earlier, big corporations like Microsoft moving their operations to Office 365. So can we talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely, Luis. So we've been sharing the strength of the cloud with TaxWise Online specifically for the last 15 years, frankly. Been in the cloud longer than anyone else in the market, from a true cloud solution, not a hosted solution, but 100% cloud-based technology that removes the need for you as a tax office to maintain your own infrastructure, frankly. You need to maintain security on your Wi-Fi or on your hardwired internet, however your internet access is developed. Those are things that are hardwired for you, or maybe remote or Wi-Fi. That's fine, works for however you choose to set up your office. But the idea of having to have a server, maintain that server, upgrade that server, restrict the access individually, we're going to give you a tool that you can log into. You can set up your users. You can allow those users to have access to the things you want them to see. They don't have to have access to everything. You may have people entering data, but they're not preparing tax returns. That's great. We can give you a user for that. You can customize access for your own unique user if that's something that works for you. You can restrict access outside of a certain location. So right now, that's probably not working for a lot of people because people are working remotely. But more important than ever, that you understand what security levels and what restrictions or access points you've given to your employees, so you know who has access to what information. In a normal office environment, you can allow employees to only have access to your TaxWise Online content from a specific URL. So they're not going off and setting up, we've seen it happen, unfortunate truth. You go off, set up your own side business, and you're suddenly preparing tax returns for their own benefit because they're accessing TaxWise Online and using your EFIN. That's obviously not. So we give you ways to protect your business from that. We have worldwide engineers, technologists, world-class experts that are building in features like multi-factor authentication, taking care of thinking through the things around identity proofing and authentication that are being talked about all across the globe, across our market, frankly. We're taking care of that for you. And you don't have taxpayer data. So when you talk about emergencies, well, we're sort of in the pandemic right now, but you think about tornadoes and floods and hurricanes and fires. And of course, we all say, it's not going to happen to me until it does. And I could share with you so many sad stories of years and years of data lost, years of content lost, because that server was stored in a physical location that was at risk.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, and that is another benefit of being or running your business from the cloud, and that's how easy it is to use. And I know sometimes it sounds difficult, but it's really not, Dawn. It's a lot easier to run a cloud solution than it is a desktop solution.
You're right. So one of the biggest things is you don't have to install. So there's no installing of software. You just go to a URL, like you would your bank URL or anything else that you do online. So again, no installation is a huge time saver. And then also there's no updating. We all know that the government makes changes in December sometimes, and at the beginning of tax season, we're trying to update forms or we've got to update calculations because they've made late changes. So we're always trying to look for updates all through the beginning of tax season. That's all done for you automatically. So it saves so much time and effort that you can then do other things with.
That's right. And then, Jasmine, you can now manage your office remotely, as you mentioned. And talk to us a little bit about that backup part of it. So you typically, in a desktop situation, when you have TaxWise or, a desktop program installed in your office network, you have to back up all of that data. With TaxWise Online, you really don't have to do that anymore.
No, it releases the headache. As Don said, it's so easy, you really don't have to do anything. So there's no downloading, there's no backing up. The system actually updates on its own, so you don't have to physically, manually go in there and update it yourself. There's nothing you have to do. The cloud and the system does everything for you.
That's right. And Shannon, one of the things that we really kept top of mind from a corporate perspective with a solution that like TaxWise Online was that last bullet point, and that's remote software assistance. We want to be able to provide that in an as-needed basis. Yeah,
absolutely. So 20 plus years in this business, working with all different sizes of tax professionals, small, medium, large, volunteer sites, you name it, the no two alike, right? So we knew that when we created TaxWise Online that it would have to evolve. We would have to anticipate the needs of kind of all of these different sizes and flavors of business owners. And the remote software assistance tool is available within TaxWise Online, so you can enable a help user who can literally log in as you and talk you through what is going on, so you could see what's happening as they help you fix whatever scenario it is that you're trying to fix. But likewise, some are uncomfortable with that and would prefer not to have someone remoting in, not looking at live tax return. And we're fine. We understand that. So we've got sort of different shoes for different sizes, right? You can use it if you like. You don't have to turn it on if you don't. So in Jasmine, in a multi-office situation where you've got some owners comfortable, some not, it's just great to be able to say, okay, well, this one likes it, this one doesn't like it. And you can adapt. You can keep things moving.
And from a remote software assistance or technical service standpoint, when you run a business from the cloud and you run a cloud solution, some of the installation problems that typically arise when you don't meet the requirements for the desktop solution, or you don't have enough storage in your computer, or the updating didn't run, none of that is present with a cloud solution. You just log in and you're in it.
And you're coming up against these pieces of technology changes, and technology. Everyone is building everything in the cloud. Like, everything is moving there. We can't get there fast enough. We're running as fast as we can to make sure we can solve those problems for everyone. But the reality of it, when I can build things that people can access in a known browser, and I can control all of those things and all of those unique entities, I can do that because I have those technical specifications. We have that information, and you have to support, 10,000 different hardware installations and different structures and levels of, have you updated Windows? Have you not? Does Windows Update break something? We've all seen it, right? It's a much more controlled user experience and a much more technologically advanced opportunity for us to evolve products to meet your needs.
And one of the cool things, as Dawn mentioned earlier, was that you can actually access it from your phone, your tablet, wherever you are. And Dawn, with that, let's talk about the cost savings and efficiency gains. There's a lot to be said about that, specifically, on the networking side of it. There's cost savings to be had.
Absolutely. So one of the things to think about, a lot of us can't set up a network and maintain it, so we hire a company in to do it in a small firm. But when you do an online product, there's no need for that networking setup. A lot of these new printers even have where you can e-print. You're not even having to be wired to it. So all of the computers in the office can do that as well. So think about the money that you're saving by not having to have a network set up for people that are right at the end of their server's life. They've got to move on to a new server. That's another huge savings of not having to buy a server, but moving to online and just having your internet. So that's one of the cost-saving pieces on it. And then the other thing is the online document storage. Again, with using mobile and using Vault in TaxWise Online, all of your source documents are there in the return, and they're stored there. So like Jasmine said earlier, no more file cabinets, no more file folders, no more umpteen million pounds of paper every year that you have to buy. And also the space. That's the other thing, is you're paying for space for file cabinets to store documents. for the people that have a commercial business, they pay by the square foot. And that's a huge expense for that as well.
And Jasmine, so we've talked about this in previous calls with, the old way of doing things where your customer, comes into the office, they hand you the document, you put it in the filing cabinet, like Dawn said, you have to store them for 3 years or more. Then, when you have to share a document back with them, you maybe send something in the mail, or, they have to actually come back to the office, take your time, from doing something else that could be generating revenues. So when you put all of that together, yes, of course, secure file sharing, the solution that you'll use has a cost. But when you put all of the additional costs from the alternative, which is doing things the old-fashioned way, there is a comparison there, and there is definitely a significant savings in cost when you put them in perspective.
Yes, it definitely is. As Don stated as well, you're not buying pallets of paper or tons of paper, especially if you're doing hundreds of returns, and you're not having to pay somebody to shred all of that. It is not only is it a time saver, but it saves you money in your pocket. And that space, as Don said, that you would pay just for storage, you're able to buy smaller square footage, but again, to add more money to your pocket that you can use for marketing, you can use to hire more people, you can use to expand your business. And I think the great thing about this is it has the ability to adapt to any client. Even if you have that client that wants to come to you, even if they're handing you paperwork, Vault takes the picture of it and will upload it into the software, and you can hand them all of those papers back. So either way, either client you choose, it is easy. It is easy to adapt with. It saves you time and it saves you money.
And Jasmine, so how do you handle those customers that are hesitant to try something new? So the client portal, maybe not, sounds like a lot on my end, as a tax client. How do you handle those customers? How do you get them past that, initial, challenge of, it's going to be something extra for me? How do you explain the benefits of it?
In that case, I really don't believe it has anything to do with how good our system is. They will find that out once you convince them to use it. I think it's about making them as comfortable as possible with the process. And that's being able to walk them through what the process is and how it works. That's what gets a client comfortable. And once they see, okay, I can do this, or okay, this is simple. Okay, I didn't have to drive that 30 minutes, or I didn't have to go pick up my kids from daycare, try to make it to the tax office before it closed and make it to my appointment on time. Once they see the benefits of it through you showing them the process, they're not going to have a problem with it. I have clients now that after they have used this process, they're like, I'm never coming back to the office again. Do you want me to just upload everything through the client portal? And I'm like, sure, yes, go ahead.
That's right. So let's make sure everybody's still with us. I'm going to go ahead and launch a survey question, and that is to find out from the audience today whether they had to run their tax business remotely this year. The options are, let me go ahead and launch it. The options are, yes, I did have to run my business, and it was actually less than 4 weeks. Yes, more than 4 weeks, or no, I was able to make safety adjustments to stay open, to keep my business open and see clients that way. So very interested to see what their response is. And while we wait for everybody to participate, let me go ahead and ask a question that I saw in the chat earlier. And Jasmine, this one is for you. When you're not meeting with clients face-to-face, are you worried about identity theft?
Not so much for me, as if I'm meeting a client and it's for the first time, I particularly like to do a Zoom call or something with them, kind of get to know who they are, because I've never seen them, never met them. And that's if they're dealing with me directly. So you have to take those measurements again to do the best you can to make sure that doesn't happen. And for me, we do a questionnaire. And you have to fill it out, and you have to sign it, and then your paperwork, and we get your driving license. Even if you're using TaxWise Online or the desktop, it does ask you to put their driving license information in the system. So With identity theft, no, but as it is per business, you have to have that model and that plan set up so that you can minimize that as much as possible.
That's right. And let's see how your business compares against everybody here today. Let me go ahead and send the results back to the audience. We have 50% with, yes, I had to run my business remotely more than 4 weeks. Then we had 10% with less than 4 weeks and 40% with no. I was able to make safety adjustments to stay open, which is great. So a good mix. Of course, some of us were under the guidance that we had to actually, close the office, so there's nothing to do there. So very excited to see that some of you were able to make adjustments and stay open. And then those of you who had to run a business remotely, I hope that you were able to do it efficiently. So let me go ahead and end the survey and continue with our presentation. And so now that we understand the benefits of running a business from the cloud, let's talk about the TaxWise virtual office. And that's, of course, one of our solutions from Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting. We'll spend a couple of minutes walking you through the components of the virtual office and what each one of those, would mean to you and your business. So, Dawn, let's go ahead and go through these. And we've seen success with all of these over the past few years, more so, obviously, in the past few months.
That's right, with everything going on. So on the screen, you can see the different products and who uses them. So you'll see on here, TaxWise Mobile is what's used by the taxpayer. So your taxpayer actually will answer questions and can take photos if they're on a phone or a tablet, or they can upload scanned-in documents if they're on a computer, and they'll upload all that data to your TaxWise Online, which is the next piece that the preparer uses. So the preparer, when they get into the office in the morning, they'll have a button that says import interviews, and it will tell you how many have come in overnight or in the last hour if it's during your day and you're just getting to look at it because you've had a customer. And then you can import that tax data. So anything that they've typed, their name, their address, their kid's name, anything like that actually populates the return automatically, so it's saving you keystroke time. And then you can look at the W-2s. You can look at the daycare form that they sent in for their child's daycare and enter the data on the 2441 within the online. So again, all of the source documents are stored in Vault, so it's right at the bottom of the tax return. So it's very easy to look at it. It opens a new tab. So if you have dual monitors like I do, I pull the source documents over to one monitor as I enter the data on the return. Once you're all done with that return, you actually get the e-signature. And again, like Jasmine said, for people that were in the office, they could do it right on their own phone if they didn't want to touch her computer or anything. So again, depending on how that customer feels, they can use their own cell phone to sign it and do that. Or if you have a touchscreen computer, they can use yours. And then also, they can sign remotely. So if they're home, and I know someone asked a question about identity theft and fraud. And so one of the things that happens with that e-signature when you don't have the customer in front of you and you don't know and you're not seeing their face, like Jasmine said, she used like Skype or FaceTime or something like that, or Zoom, to see the client. But if you can't see them, when they get the e-signature with remote, there are what are called KBA questions to verify that the person signing the document is indeed the taxpayer. So it's based off of databases, and you guys have all seen it, where it'll ask you, like, what address did you live in 2018? Or what bank has your current car loan? Or any data like that. And it's to verify that that's really the person, not that they've stolen that taxpayer's identity. And then as Jasmine talked about, we also have Client Portal. So if you're not using TaxWise Mobile, or if you're offering other services, some of our people offer accounting and bookkeeping, and they can upload documents, both the taxpayer and the preparer, to get documents back and forth between the two. So for instance, if I'm doing bookkeeping and I have a financial statement that I want to get to that small business, I can upload that financial statement in Client Portal for my small business client to look at. So those are the types of things that we've done. And guys, there are products of all of these all over, but we bundled them to be integrated to make it easier to work through the whole process.
That's right, Dawn. And I like that we covered all of them because it really shows the entire cycle. Everything comes full circle from the intake of forms with TaxWise Mobile, and then obviously the communication back and forth if need be. So let's spend a couple of minutes here on this slide because I see some questions coming in the Q&A. And Jasmine, this question is for you. And before I read it out, I want to read a comment from somebody in the Q&A. They said, I've heard a lot of facilitators in the last couple of weeks, but Jasmine, all caps, has been the most compassionate and effective without confusion in her delivery. So wanted to read it out loud here for you. Definitely, it's always great to hear. And I know that you get that all the time. So happy to have you on and thank you for making the time. But the question for you as a follow-up is the client portal. So what percentage of your customers would you say are utilizing the client portal and how hard do you push it?
A lot of times I use it for the majority of my clients. If I had to give you a percentage, I would say about 95. I think that 5% is people that may not be computer literate. And so in that, I try to do my best to push everybody there because one thing it does is you have those clients that do not keep up with paperwork. They're just not good with it. It's not saying they're a bad person. They just don't keep up with paperwork. And so a lot of times the traditional way is you hand out a 20, 30 pages of a tax return to a client, and a couple months later, they have no idea where they put it. And so when you send all that information or that tax return, those W-2s, everything over to the client portal, all they have to do is log in and retrieve it. It excludes you from having to go to the office if you're not a year-round tax company or a tax firm, or if you're too busy in the off season to print returns and mail them or print returns and wait for somebody to come pick them up. They can log right in and access their return anytime with the signature attached to it. And so the client portal also does other aspects. If you're that business owner that goes to, has events or is a bookkeeping person or a CPA or whatever, it has other measurements in it too to keep up with client information, whether it's setting appointments, whether it is invoicing, whether it is prospecting or putting leads in. It'll even tell you your client's birthday. So a lot of times they don't hear from tax preparers in the off season. And if I have to say, that is the worst thing I found in the tax industry is after tax season is over, they don't hear from us. They don't hear from us until it's November or December and it's time to prepare again, or it's time to make sure they got all their stuff in order. And so that allows you to send out the reminders to them, even with the functionality of Texcellent that is in the online platform, to send out, hey, happy birthday from your tax preparer. Just wanted to let you know I'm thinking about you. It gives them that communication that they are just not a dollar sign to you, or they are just not a client that's going to pay your bills from them, but you are actually building a relationship with them that not only allows them to continue to keep coming back to you every year, but it'll also help you grow because what they're going to start doing is referring clients to you. And so it helps you with that stuff. Also with updating, if there's any information within the year that they need to update, whether they move, they change their phone number, they don't have access to their email anymore, they don't need you. They can get in there themselves and say, and edit their address and update it, change their phone number. So when you're making calls or when you're making contact in November or December or January, you're not calling and you're getting a dial tone or you're getting the wrong number and you don't know how to reach this client. They've already did the work for you. So you have that in there. And so that platform, I have to tell you, if you want to see your practice streamline, get it, try it out, do a trial, get with whoever your account manager is, get a demo. Dawn is awesome at demos. Go through it, try it out, see if you like it. It will add more than taking away to your firm.
And if you explain things the way you have been explaining today, with how passionate you are about this, I can see how you get to the 95% adoption rate. So that's great. That's always great to hear. So let's go ahead and switch to the last section of the presentation today, and that's some strategies to grow your tax business in 2021. And one of them is, of course, Jasmine, social media. You have to be active in social media, not only because it's one of the main marketing tools that we have right now, with everything going on. And then with TaxWise Mobile, social media really turns into a tool that you use to engage with customers on and off, into a tool that you can now use to attract new business to you, because now you have a way to translate that customer that typically just goes in there to view your profile or to see what new content you put out there, and turn that person into an actual tax client. So definitely a lot to be done there on social media, and we have several presentations on the topic. If you want to learn more, stop by our booth. We can send you in the right direction. Now, the other strategy for 2021 is growing in the Hispanic market. And there's a report out there from the National Taxpayer Advocate group that says that 76% of Hispanic taxpayers are choosing a professional tax return preparer. And that means, that is a percentage higher than, some of the other segments of the population. And Jasmine, we talked about this too. The Hispanic taxpayer typically is a loyal taxpayer. If they agree with your business, if they receive good service, they will be returning back to your office year after year. So you want to make sure that you have the tools in place to create a great impression. Yeah. So, and with that, Dawn, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we have in TaxWise for Spanish-speaking customers. We have a lot going on in the software that is often overlooked.
We do, and a lot of people don't realize it's there. We actually have more than 60 forms that translate into Spanish. On the main info, there's actually a checkbox that you can either print the return in Spanish if you want to give the printed version to them, if that's a more comfortable language for them in a written document, or you can change the screen. So if the preparer is more comfortable reading it on the screen, you can do that as well. Or for somebody like me who doesn't speak Spanish, it was great because I could switch the screen and have them read it if we got into something that they didn't understand. So we're in rural Georgia. We don't have many bilingual preparers here. So that really helped out in my area as well. So it really works well because you can communicate in whatever language they're most comfortable with. We also have the program help files in Spanish, and the TaxWise mobile interview is in Spanish as well. Of course, we have support reps in Spanish too, because we really work with that market very, very well.
That's right. And Shannon, we have put, of course, a lot of effort into making sure that we have tools that support remote tax preparation. So let's just reinforce the fact that, to be able to grow your business in 2021 and beyond, given everything that we have learned this year, you have to have the right tools in place, simply to be able to operate at the same capacity as you were before social distancing guidelines and before everything that's happened this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, we all have to evolve. COVID or not, you have to learn how to meet customers where they are. You have to engage clients in new ways. We want to, as tax professionals, we want to keep our service front and center, and we want to keep clients from going to DIY, right? We want to make it easy for you to keep them from going that direction. And it's hard to engage the millennial generation, hard to the Gen Z people that are now coming up. I don't know how many of you out there in this virtual world have children that are like this literally all day long. That's your future. So not being on social media, not having a web presence, not having a digital presence, not being able to say, hey, yeah, just click on my portal and send me whatever you need. I'll take it. I got it. I'll take it from here. We knew that we needed to, and look, we're going to continue to evolve it, but you have to meet them there. They have to be able to get to your site. It has to be easy. They want beautiful apps. They want beautiful access. They want to get in, and nobody wants to think. Your clients don't want to think about it. That's why they have you. So we don't want them to think about it. I just want them to be able to get it to you quickly and securely, safely, and you be able to go on doing the work you like to do. And your business is growing organically because you're continuing to put information out there that you're never going to know. We'll be like the post office. No rain, sleet, snow, or COVID will stop us from preparing tax returns.
That's right. And Shannon, so with that, the last strategy we want to reinforce today is, bank products. And there's a lot of revenue to be had there. And looking forward to, the next few months and even next year, there may be an increasing need for the ability to deduct tax preparation fees out of the tax refund. So you want to make sure that you have, something ready and available to support that.
Yeah, look, bank products are good for some, not good for others. There's all sorts of views on them and what kind of value they bring to you and your particular business. It's your choice. I'm just going to tell you that Wolters Kluwer, we're committed to providing people the services that they need. And in certain communities, they wouldn't survive without this. Providing responsible offerings that allow people to have access to funds in an expedited fashion, preparers to be paid or compensated for their services and make that payment process easier. Sometimes the bank product's the right solution. Sometimes we've got a fee collect option that is a more direct route. It's not a traditional bank product. The service is paid for by the tax practitioner, but you may, if you have a collection problem in your office or people don't pay, these are things that you might want to look into because we have a variety of ways to do that. We are not the bank product of the past, whether you choose a refund transfer that simply allows the refund to be directed to the taxpayer and your fees to be deducted, or you're looking for more complex solutions that will help you on the advance side and get dollars out to customers before IRS acknowledgement, all of those kinds of conversations, we can have them with you, happy to share. We partner with all of the leading bank product providers within the industry and providing a breadth of solutions to meet the needs of what is a very varying base of tax owners.
That's right, Shannon. And with that, we have arrived at the end of our presentation. So let me go ahead and launch a last polling question. And that is, of course, to ask if you would like to learn more about our solutions, specifically the TaxWise Virtual Office and all the components that we share today, not only the TaxWise Mobile and TaxWise Online, but also the client portal for secure file sharing, e-signature, and the online document vault. Now, while I leave this poll question up for the next 20 seconds or so, Jasmine, one quick question for you here from the chat. Do you have to use TaxWise Mobile and TaxWise Online, or can you use one or the other? Do they, I guess essentially, do they have to be used together?
Yes. So the actual mobile app links to the online system, which allows you to get whatever the customer has put in. Their documentation, their personal data information. So if they're only trying to use the mobile, there's actually nowhere to send it to. It doesn't go anywhere. And so in that, it's not as complex as a person may think it is. It's simply the click of a button for you as the tax preparer. And once you click that button, everything that they have put in through the mobile app comes over to you in the system.
That's right. And, absolutely. So if you have mobile, you have to have TaxWise Online for the interview information to be received. But if you have TaxWise Online, you don't have to use mobile if you don't see an opportunity there. So you could just use all the components of the virtual office except for TaxWise Mobile. But we definitely encourage you, especially in times where you need to find that additional marketing strategy. So Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us today. We know that this was a never-ending tax season, and you still made time for us. So definitely appreciate that. Shannon, thank you for joining us once again and for, producing and developing and helping us create a tax software solution that, helps a lot of tax professionals out there. And Dawn, once again, sharing your insights. And, I love working with you. We've been working for the past, 14 years. And it's always such a joy to hear, all the great content that you have to share with everybody. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We have a number on the screen. If you're a TaxWise customer, you can call your account manager for questions or, again, visit our booth. And if you're not using TaxWise today and would like to try TaxWise Online, you can go ahead and visit that page as well, or once again, go talk to us at the virtual booth. So thank you all for attending today. Thank you to our panel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.